But from his writings, you could tell that he was a man who was inspired by a moment. People like to say to me, and I've done now a number of documentaries on Dr. King, Dr. King was like Jesus come to earth. And I would say, no, the point was that he was not. That he was a regular man who decided in a moment that he could lead. And so he did. He wrote this: after one has discovered what he is called for, he should set out to do it with all the power that he has in his system. Do it as if God Almighty has ordained you at this particular moment in history to do it. And so he does. And I would argue that he's actually speaking to all of us when he writes that. What is that thing that moves you? When you discover what it is, then you run with it. And you do it as if you have been ordained with a message to do it. Dr. King in 1954 was 25 years old, and he wrote his first sermon, and it was on 4 pieces, really 2 pages back and front of loose leaf paper, lined notebook paper, and basically the words of a young preacher talking to folks in Montgomery, Alabama. Simple, basic sermon. But reading that, we knew that a year later, Rosa Parks would take one of the seats reserved for whites on a bus, and that civil rights leaders would want African Americans to boycott the bus system. And we knew, reading this simple sermon, Dr. King would be plucked from obscurity to become the voice of the bus boycott movement. And he was chosen because he was young, people liked him, and he was non-controversial. But he would end up being the person who would articulate a philosophy of a movement that has been quoted today in China and Libya and Syria. He was chosen, though, because he was non-controversial and everybody liked him. But he would end up being the leader of one of the world's most influential movements because he decided to lead. He decided to use his voice to make a stand. He decided that he would take a position that others might not agree with. He decided that some of his own people even would ridicule him and revile him. And he decided to stand up anyway. Sometimes circumstances call for a leader, and that is leadership. And I think ultimately leadership is about justice. Leadership is about taking a stand for people whose voices are not heard very often. Dr. King died doing that. You know, it's often people will cite Dr. King's I Have a Dream speech. I have a dream. It was not actually called that, as many of you probably know already. People like to say, I have a dream, or talk about the content of character. And that's a really nice phrase to throw on a t-shirt, I think. But the I Have a Dream speech was called Normalcy Never Again. And everybody gets very uncomfortable when you start talking about the Negro's been delivered a bad check. It's like, ooh, can we go back to content of character? I like that. That's so much better. But these are the uncomfortable conversations we have to have about where we are today. And I think we're at a time, once again, in this country where there is a call for leadership in all of the various communities, whether it's a Latino community, or for women, or for African Americans, or for Americans in general, or for young people. There is a call for leadership. And in our Latino in America 3 documentary, we examined the Latino vote, and you could see frustrations on both sides.